Hello. Today we're going to talk a little bit about compliance for trailers. So what I've done is I've got a compiled list here of like a bunch of different rules and regulatory bodies and stuff like that, inspection points and stuff. Basically, it's derived from like some other inspection sheets and stuff that I've got here. So you can see here in this list, it's just basically a bunch of different rules and regulations for stuff, inspection points. And this is just a path for, total trailer compliance and stuff, like trying to get all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak. So we're just going to go over that today, basically, and I'll bring that out for people later to have a bit of a look at yourself, and, you run over it. Hopefully it helps somebody out there. So just to start off, what I wanted to do was talk about some of the regulatory bodies that govern over it that you'll see in that same list. So whenever an industry begins to get some traction and stuff, we see that these regulatory bodies begin to pop up. More than often, they're asking for a cut of your industry, if you know what I mean. So they're saying like, oh, I see that you're making pies. We didn't know that you're making pies. Did you know that there's a rule that says that you have to buy my flour? So it's that kind of thing. So for the RV industry currently, we have a few bodies that are simply adding extra baggage to the industry. And to the builders in the industry, and clients too. You've got to pay so much more because there's these extra fees we got to pay, and then we see some regulations that are simply there to better the industry through practice and understanding. It's often easy to tell apart these standards because some of them will say, oh, I see you've made a mistake or something. Let's try again. We'll get it right. And other ones will say like, oh, you broke our rule. Now you got to pay me. So it's quite obvious the rules that are trying to help the industry as a whole move forward, and it's obvious the regulatory bodies that are just trying to make a buck out of the industry. But despite my despite my take on all of these rules and stuff, they are indeed industry standards and should be taken as that. They should be given the gravity that they deserve. And they should be understood and looked further into and stuff like that, despite some of the things that I might say about them in this video sort of thing. I've been dealing with standards and stuff since I was 16 years old. I quit school and went into an apprenticeship and everything. I've been working on tools and that most of my life. So I've always dealt with inspectors, engineers, regulations, standards, all of this sort of stuff. So, I'll try to make it a little bit entertaining with my point of view on some of these things as well too. Okay, so let's have a look at the regulatory bodies. So the first one that I've got here is fit for purpose, which is the one that's up on the screen here that we can see now. Fit for purpose, really, I reckon with all this stuff, I will have the links for all of these sites and everything at the bottom of the video for you to go and have a look at. Fit for purpose is for stuff like the entitlement to expect safe goods and service, entitlement to expect every retailer, manufacturer, importer complies with product safety laws. All products must be safe, durable, free from defects, and fit for the purpose that it's advertised for, is what they're saying. That's the main thing that you got to look at there. That's fit for what it's advertised for, what you've said it can do. All services must be delivered with care, skill, and within a responsible time. Businesses must honour all agreements, including express and extended warranties. Businesses must not make false, misleading, or deceptive claims about their product or service, including claims about safety. So that's fit for purpose. Okay, so I hear people throw that term around a lot. Give it a look. The link will be down below. Go and look at it, understand what the law is before you throw the term fit for purpose around. It's been there for a long time, and pretty much everyone abides by this rule. This is not really any argument about it. So the next one to have a look at is the Australian design rules, and I'm quite fond of the Australian design rules. So this is the Bible of road vehicles, basically. The Australian design rules are national standards for vehicle safety, anti-theft, and emissions. The ADRs are generally performance-based and cover issues such as occupant protection, structures, lighting, noise, engine exhaust emissions, braking, and a range of miscellaneous items. So again, I believe go and have a look at these websites yourself. It will bring you up to date on it. We only deal with the stuff that's talking about trailers below 3.5 ton in any of the stuff that I'm doing. So bear that in mind if you're looking at ADRs. There's a complex, big listing of ADRs and stuff like that. It is much like a Bible. It's hard to read. So then we've got the VSBs. So, you know, the vehicle standard bulletins is the VSBs. So the VSBs are bulletins basically which kind of like update rules. This is a way to maintain and update the industry as a whole prior to going through the rigmarole of passing the rules in legislation. The VSB also does its best to gather information on other standards and put them out in an easy to find manner, like, you know, VSB 1, VS2, VSB 3 and so on sort of thing, rather than having to sieve through the depths of ADR rules and stuff and understand them. That way the VSB's there to sort of make things a little bit more user friendly for people. So you can find a lot of essential rules inside the VSB, and it's easy to find, and it's all, you know, government run and stuff like that as well too. So again, feel free to jump in and have a look at some of that, some of the stuff that they talk about there. What have I got after that? Competition and Consumer Act. So look this one up yourself. It's the object of the Act is to enhance the welfares of Australians through the promotion of competition and fair trading and provision for consumer protection. Yeah, this is Commonwealth law, and it really comes down to that whole don't be a dickhead in the marketplace. The whole idea was that, you know, that we all got to work, don't scam each other, don't intentionally rip each other off, please. You know, I hate stuff like this because it always seems like small businesses are the only ones ever held accountable to this sort of stuff, because they're the only ones who can't just say, "Bruh, we'll take you to court." So, you know, it's a kick in the balls that way. It's all there, it's written, it's legislation, but, you know, big businesses and stuff like that, if you got money to go to court, that's the justice system, right? Anyway. So, you know, look it up yourself. It's all there online, and you can look through it. This is a really in-depth legislation, so I don't even look into it that much myself, honestly. Tradesmen and stuff are taught a lot of the rules for, you know, trying to deal with people, their clients, and building correctly and stuff like that, or all of this stuff, the understanding of your promise between you and your client and stuff like this. It's all things that I like to think common sense for people. The more you make rules and stuff like this for it, the more people try to find potholes in it, or, you know, like holes, loopholes. But, you know, I guess it's got to be there in the long run, doesn't it? We've got to have that sort of guideline. So that one's the Competition and Consumer Act, and the next one is the Australian standards. You know, I would love to show you all the Australian standards and stuff like that and just walk you through them. It would be really, really useful. But the freaking paywalls in standards. So if you try to do the right thing here and find copies of this stuff to build and, you know, build right, do it legit and everything like that, so you want to follow the standards, often there's paywalls, some jerk who's like, you know, nah man, you got to pay me before you can follow the rules. You know, Australia's state of your standards. It's like, I personally believe that if you have Australian nationwide standards and stuff like that, it should be free for everyone to access. You shouldn't put it behind paywalls. Someone should get on board with that. So yeah, again, try to look up Australian standards yourself. I have some that I've got from previously having subscriptions to places where I could get access to them and stuff like that. So, you know, if you need them or anything like that, feel free to ask. But, you know, mainly you need to deal with the gas compliance, gas installations and electrical installations and stuff. So look at the AS 3000's right at the top there, and I believe AS 3001 or something like that is the one that you need to look for. Plus you've got a AS in your chains as well too. 4177 is your AS for chains and stuff. So there's a few standards that do apply to recreational vehicles, but mainly the Australian standard seems to specify quite often commercial or residential. And in the case of standards and stuff, specifying these things makes it not comply to other things. So in general cases, the RV industry takes a lot of the building rules of the AS where they're saying for residential or commercial or something like that, and take them as kind of a guideline, you know, try to follow them to the best of our abilities and stuff. But sometimes they might not take into consideration some of the, you know, heights and stuff that we work with, that RV people work with in their industry sort of thing. So it's give and take with the AS, but the AS is, you know, a main one to follow. There's a lot of thought that goes into these standards, like people that test stuff over hundreds of years, you know, all this information gathered and everything to make these standards for safety and for the betterment of the industry and the people working, so they know they can build things and sell things that aren't going to fall apart and hurt people and stuff like that. So you know, very important, the Australian standards, but again, behind freaking paywalls. You know, sort it out, Australia. So the next one that I've got down here, you know, and I won't go into this too much because I tend to get a little bit overtly passionate about this sort of stuff and everything. So the next sort of thing that I've got there is for internal check process and ISO 9001, and I'll just go over the internal process. The internal check process is just referring to a QMS, which is a quality management system. For anybody out there who hears that term thrown around, that people use it as a buzz term, but persons in manufacturing should have solid documentation and quality gates which can track the quality of the build for later reference. Sadly, many companies think that this is seeking blame. So, you know, rather than trying to use it as a system to prevent the problem from happening in the future. A good example is, you know, a quality management system sheet might say that Dave worked on this vehicle where a suspension bolt was not tightened. You'll see admin reaction to that being like, you know, well, obviously fire Dave, problem solved, right? And it's like, well, and they don't think, no, let's talk to Dave and see why that sort of thing can happen and form a plan to prevent that sort of thing happening again, so that Dave doesn't have to worry about getting blamed for this sort of stuff. That's, you know, that's why it's meant to be there. A system that's not only going to help you identify your bottlenecks and your problems so that you can easily add things to quality gates and stuff along your QMS system, but it's also there so that it can save your employees, your guys working on the floor and everything like that. If they're just following instruction and stuff, they shouldn't be held accountable, and especially in an industry that's trying to push towards lower skilled people, so not hiring professional trades and not targeting people with trade qualification and stuff like that, by targeting a lower skilled employees and paying less for them sort of thing. I really feel that using a QMS system to target people to blame is stupid and a complete rorting of the system, and using it for what it's not there for. And firing Dave does not fix the fucking problem, you know, so that's why those systems are there. But the ISO 9001 system, you see a little bit just there. Now this is a wonderful idea, a brilliant process and system that speaks about care and process between everything, so that your whole business can just run streamlined and super smooth and stuff like that. But the whole system can be doctored and faked. The whole system for inspection on it and stuff is corrupt. I'll go into my detail about that sort of stuff in another video. But pretty much this little ISO certified thing, in my mind, it means nothing, because the whole process can be doctored, faked, bought. You know, like what? This is just the first search on Google, and you already get some companies and stuff here that are advertising, you know, like, we'll get you an ISO cert 5 minutes. Sign up to our website and we'll just send you a ISO 9001 certificate and stuff. And there's companies and businesses out there that do this all the goddamn time and then leverage this symbol as some sort of marketing thing. be aware of what it is. It's a brilliant concept, and if people are following it, then it's wonderful. But it's a it's an onus thing. Like if you're in it, you're meant to follow it by onus for the gift of well thought out business practice. But doctoring it to just get the symbol to leverage for advertising and stuff like that off the symbol for it is a breakdown of the system, which we see more often than the earlier mentioned of doing it for the right reasons. And that's why I say this system is corrupt and broken at the moment, which I'll go into in greater detail another time. But an internal check process or a QMS or something like that, vitally important for your build system. You should always show the life of your build for your own personal defense and for the defense of everyone in your business, so that and also for the betterment of your business and stuff. So you can always target that, hey, we seem to have a problem with that build in this area all the time. Let's make some plans and stuff like that to make this not a problem area, so that we can pinpoint our bottlenecks, pinpoint our problem areas and stuff like that, and then create suitable solutions for those areas that are workable for everybody that's involved in it. And we can do that through thought and process. Brilliant concepts doesn't often get played out that way because of money, greed, build faster, make me more money, it's like, well, you said you are ISO. It's like, I am ISO, make me money. It's like, that's not ISO, dude. Anyway, state requirements. I don't actually have anything here to show for that sort of stuff, but state requirements are just like, each state does have their own different requirements that can be contradictory to some of the things that I'm saying and stuff like that. So if you know of your own state requirements and stuff, tell me about them, because as a designer and everything, the target for me is to always try to find the highest requirement by state, often Victoria. Let's not beat around the bush. But often we just find like that highest requirement, whoever's asking the most, and I'll try to design by their standard. That way I know that it'll appease just about all states, sort of thing. Whereas, targeting a lower standard rules out certain states in your mobility and stuff, and you're roadworthy. So, if you know about your state requirements, I don't. There's honestly that many of them, and sometimes you might only know about them by living in your state for a certain amount of time or in your area and stuff. So if you know about certain state practices or anything like that, please feel free to let me know. I'm always thrilled to learn about some of these new things, like breakaways and stuff like that. We have different practices in different states, and that's interesting stuff to get to know, especially for your registration process. Next one is the MVSA, which is now the RVSA, which is, where's that? Here. So here now we've got RVSA, or the RVS legislation in place. The A is for the Act. So previously this was the Motor Vehicle Standard Act, and it's been now upgraded to the RVSA. The Road Vehicle Standard Act replaces the Motor Vehicle Standard Act. The operational aspect of the RVSA are contained in the Road Vehicle Standard Rules 2019. The RVSA, the rules, and other related legislation are collectively referred to as the RVS legislation. So feel free to go to this website. Again, links will be down below. Infrastructure for gov.au has a lot of these regulations and legislations and stuff like that listed on it for your reference. So just furthering on the RVSA legislation stuff is that I think that it's been poorly rolled out. Again, this is all just my opinion. You might have different opinions. I think that this process has been poorly rolled out by the people who are in charge of the process, because the general feeling in the industry nowadays is you better do this right or the RVSA is going to come and get you in your sleep. That's not how standards should be, right? The kind of feeling that kind of feeling is wrong, and it's not the way to get people to accept and apply working standards and regulations. The RVS is poorly understood, and apart from shady comply or you'll pay the price threats from the admin, they seem to struggle with getting a proper face sort of thing for their standard, which helps integrate it into working practice. It's hard to sort of explain exactly what I'm trying to get to there. So what I will say about the RVSA is that for anybody who's currently panicked about this sort of stuff, just be aware that their objective isn't to come out and shut down anybody's business or anything like that. They're just around to make sure that everybody understands the rules and is doing the best to abide by the rules and stuff like that. Arguing with inspectors is a sure thing. It's a surefire way to get yourself a non-compliance thing. So just work with your inspectors and stuff. If they're saying, we need to try to fix up this over here, then just say, okay, then, we'll do some stuff and we'll show you what we can do to do it. They obviously want to work with you on it. I hear people saying it's like, oh, we got to do all this stuff and it's going to cost me money that I don't have and everything like that. It's like, well, just talk to your inspector about that, man. Their objective is not to be like, you gotta have all this money or you're not allowed to work in this industry. No, we're allowed to work and stuff. That's their goal. They just want to make sure that we're not doing dodgy shit, because let's face it, there's been some goddamn dodgy shit in this industry over its time. So can't really argue with that rollout or anything like that, can we? One of the other ones that we can look at is the VSS, and they're the vehicle safety standards and stuff. Really, they're kind of hard, what I found, to look up specific stuff about. I do have like this huge book from the VSS that's really thick and hard to get through. But, really the general gist is that they've kind of got like their fingers in just about everything. I believe that there's some sort of group that's like, they're the ones that are in talk with all of these other groups and stuff like that about making the rules or something. They're also heavily involved here, as you can see, with imports and registrations through the automatic, like the RAWs and everything. So, obviously they're quite involved in the industry a bit. Feel free to look them up yourself. You won't see too many like direct rules from these guys, but they've got their hands in all these other guys who do have direct rules and stuff like that. So you might see them mentioned and stuff here and there, the VSS. Finally, last one is like my favorite one of all of them, and I spoke in the beginning, about one's adding baggage and one's not adding baggage and stuff like that. Now this is the RVCS website. These guys are awesome. If you don't know about them, go and give them a look. Check out their website and everything. They got so much useful information and everything on here. Just about everything I learnt came through this website, and a compliance engineer who I'd met, who was friendly enough to walk me through a lot of this website and everything like that, to explain to me the descriptors and how to go through and identify the required things that I need to get through the descriptor and stuff like that, how to make applications, have them bounce back to you, how to rectify and get back on it. So it's a process, these things, but this system here is the RVCS, and the descriptors that it's got for motorhomes and other RVs and everything is the main reason why I believe that, well, one of the reasons why I believe that, the RAV and stuff like this is really just a plug-in to something that we already had and already had everything there set up for. And then they wanted to tack this on, and it really felt like it was just because they didn't know that there was all this stuff already in place for all these other things. It was like, oh, but we'll make this listing where you can list your like a descriptor sort of thing, where it'll say like your vehicle and what compliances you've got on it and stuff like that. For trailers, it'll be awesome. And they're like, you mean the descriptors? Like, just with the it's already there, man. And they're like, no, our one will be for trailers, right? But anyway, so we've got that system now, but thankfully enough, the RVCS and everything, the RVCS, I said that right, are in charge of it, and they're fantastic guys. Like, some of the people I've met from there are wonderful people, and the engineers and stuff that are working with them, the compliance engineer that I've met, I don't like to really put names or anything like that out in this sort of thing, but he was a wonderful, wonderful person and showed me so much and really helped me get into this industry, really helped me unlock a bit of my passion for the industry and stuff like that. So I can't put that sort of thing over enough. If you're into the technical side of things, then give these guys a look. And that pretty much covers compliance at the moment for all of this stuff, so there really wasn't that much to it. There's not that many legislative bodies. Well, there's a few legislative bodies, but you'll see in that list, when we get to that list, that a lot of these regulatory bodies and everything are, so, you know, here's our list, and you can see over here, here's our regulatory bodies and stuff like that. So we've got ADRs, we've got VSBs, consumer and competition, you know, we've got all of these different requirements, which are then outlined and stuff, and how we can check them. So, you know, that's just an idea. That gives you an idea what all these things here will be if you're looking at this list later once it comes out and stuff. So, yeah, well, that's about it. And later I'll go over this once I have a build, and I can show you some pictures and stuff and how I can do design to compliance and stuff. Then I'll make some videos about that sort of stuff for you. But currently I don't have any videos on that. And this was sort of what I had, so I thought I'd share something on it for the sake of compliance. So if you made it through watching any of this, thank you. You're a champion. I don't know how the hell you got through it. Compliance has to be the most boring shit in the world to try to watch like videos about. So if you're getting entertainment in any way, shape or form out of this, good on you, because you'd be one of the few people in the world that actually can. The information about this stuff is kind of technical, kind of hairy, and I'm bad at talking about it. But it doesn't mean that the industry is not worth getting into for yourself and having a look for yourself. The point of Hunter Caravan design and everything is to try to help people get into the design aspect of it, get into some of this stuff themselves, and see if you see as well too that really that dream or the thought of having your own caravan or build for yourself is not out of your reach. You might see some of these manufacturers nowadays that are releasing builds at super high prices and everything, which genuinely they have to try to sell in the market. But it's mainly because of their overheads that are tacked on. So through a design, a will to build it for yourself and stuff, and through outsourced local trades and everything, you might be able to get the build that you're looking for the price that you're after. To a limited extent, obviously, if the price you're after is zero, you're always going to have a real difficult time trying to find that purchase. But, you know, if you're trying to aim, like I want under 10 grand and I want a van me and my partner can go away in or something like that, then there's still chances for that to happen. You know, you can look at older school types of cladding, older school types of framing, like an alley frame with styro packed wall, and then just using composite board on the inside and just composite board on the outside, even cheaper again. You know, then you can build yourself a decent wall system. Anyway, I'll get into that more so with design and stuff, but that's just an example for you with compliance, and the designs are built to compliance and stuff, especially when I'm trying to work on them, because I love working on the little compliance details and stuff. So, all right, cheers, bye.